Right, good evening, folks. It's Monday. Must be Airfix Chill time. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. We have got five in the chat, but I think John Parker's on his way. Nigel's got internet issues, so he might be able to pop on, but he'll be like Max Headroom from Channel 4 days back in the 80s. Like, you know what I mean? He's got internet issues then again. So so if he can pop in, he might do. We'll see.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was at Bovington on Saturday, and I met quite a few scale models that come to hello. So if you've joined tonight, nice to see you all again. Signed a couple of books that people have bought. They wanted me to sign them, which was quite nice, and I had a good time on the stores. You know, I do like Bovington Tank Museum because you're in the midst of history, aren't you? You know, it's very special. I was there with my scale model club, and we had a fantastic time. I didn't film any of it because of I was just so busy doing other things. But next time I'm up there, I am going to film. I'm going to film the whole event. The only thing I didn't like was that they had split us all from the main hall into another hall as well, and we were all dotted around. It was very hard to find us. I think if they do it again, they need to actually put up some sort of map where everybody is, because I think I was trying to find Portsmouth for a while and it took a while, it was good times. But Dale was there with Airfix, which got me onto the discussion really, that because they've got Land Rover in their range, the starter set Land Rover. If you've not built it yet, have a crack. It's a really, really nice, well engineered kit. My only advice is I sprayed it up before I put it together. I thought, it'll be easy to do that. But the tolerances are that tight, you've got to make sure you don't put paint on the edges where you're gluing to. You know, they are tight tolerances, but it's a bloody good kit. And because I saw it there, and I saw some others have built it, and there's the Hella version as well. It's an old kit, but there was a couple of 1/24ths there that was on display, which looked really nice. But it got me thinking about companies are not, or they're trying to bypass licensing at what cost. And for instance, Gecko Models this week have announced, or not this week, last month, I should say, announced a Land Rover, but they never used the term Land Rover in the title. And it got me thinking of other things that have been produced recently and not using the brand, I should say. And I kind of was wondering, because I don't know all the answers. I don't think any of us do here, but we can have a good discussion about it and just see what the crack is. How do we feel about this? Now, let's revert back to last year, or maybe it was the year before, when Airfix released the KT ambulance. And within a few weeks, Gecko had announced theirs. But they never mentioned the word Austin, did they? They called it, Airfix was Austin K/Y ambulance, World War II. Gecko went the opposite way and just said KY ambulance with Queen Elizabeth.
They actually called it well-known KT/Y ambulance.
Right.
Well known. So let's put that out there for everyone. I know that people have already commented in the chat. If you want to start commenting now, it'll be interesting. What's people's thoughts on companies doing this? Is it laying it fair to other companies who do license the brand? And then we have to then, as a scale modeler, have to purchase the kit at a certain price point because a certain percentage of the kit sold is going to that brand that they're being licensed. But I'm going to put it out there. That's a good one there. Yeah, I remember that on Farty Croc. The 1/4 truck, not Jeep. And I'm not going to. I know what I'm saying. I know Airfix are not beyond reproach here because even today, I went through my stash and they released this World War II US military tractor, which has got the decals in for the case version, which is the yellow one, that side, yellow one. And it even says case on the decal. But this wasn't an Airfix release per se. It was a Thunder Models release. But let's put it out there to everyone. If you want to jump in first on the chat, where do you stand on this? Let's start with James. James, to boldly go. Where do you stand on this? Do you think they're doing right or they're doing wrong?
Well, they're doing the decent thing by getting a license for it, because obviously, but some of these companies are doing it just to increase their profit margins.
Yeah.
On the kits. I mean, it's unfortunately, it's like Tamiya do it with their 148 scale kits a lot, because you've got, as Party Croc said, 1/4 ton US utility truck. It's a Jeep.
Yeah.
3 ton German truck.
Opel.
It's an Opel Blitz. It's even got the bloody logo on it. And so forth and such forth. Even the Humber armored car. They call it 7.5 ton armored car Mark IV.
Yeah.
And the Dingo as well.
Yeah, the Dingo. That's a good shout. What about you, Luke?
Also do the K2Y as well.
Yeah. What about you, Luke? What do you feel about this?
I think in the grand scheme of product licensing, and not just in relation to modeling, but in every sort of area of enterprise, if you look at the companies that are less likely to pay license fees and all that sort of stuff, they're generally in the Far East. We all know the manufacturers, we all know the kits. Yes, they run the risk of these, whether it be Land Rover or Scammell or whoever, taking legal action against that particular manufacturer. However, they don't really care because they're almost untouchable because of where they're located, in the world. And from a consumer's point of view, do I really care whether they put Land Rover on the box or not? Because if you know what you're building and you've done your it's a Land Rover. You know that. The one that comes to mind is the Scammell tank transporter, the 35th scale one by Hobby Boss, where for all intents and purposes, it's absolutely a Scammell. And all they did was leave the Scammell badge out of the kit. That's it. That's all they did. And I think it was Nigel that actually, I don't know whether he cast his own or he sourced an aftermarket Scammell badge to put on the grill. But if they'd have called it a Scammell and paid the licensing fee as a manufacturer, that kit probably would have been a third more expensive. So that's the issue, and I'm sure that affects. Firstly, it's going to affect wholesalers. Then it's going to affect retailers like Alex. Then it's going to affect consumers at the end of that chain. Am I that bothered that they call it what it is? Not really, not really. And I think in the world of licensing and licensing products, the model making world and manufacturers are very, very small fry in comparison to everything else that's being copied or produced and not licensed. I don't think a lot of these manufacturers, the actual companies, care that Hobby Boss have released a truck and they haven't put a Scammell badge on it and haven't paid a license. I don't think they care. I think they've got bigger things to worry about.
That's a fair shout. That's a fair shout. Alex, what's your take on this?
So, I'm going to be slightly controversial.
That's not like you, Alex.
I think it's absolutely fucking fine. I think anybody that complains about license fees is chasing their own arse. I mean, let's just flip it around for a minute. license fees have only become a thing in recent decades, and it's really due to corporate greed.
Yeah.
So companies like Lockheed Martin, like Disney, like everybody else, are looking for any chance to try and get money out of their product. And before, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, people didn't care. People were happy to have, reproductions of their products out there. It's good advertising for them and stuff. And now it's monetization. Companies see it as an opportunity for monetization. Now, I think there are two parts to it. So one is if you're a company like Airfix and you go to a company like Bedford or whatever and officially license your product, I think if you're getting something for that, if you're getting access to blueprints, if you're working with the company, you get the kind of kudos of that. You can say it's an officially licensed product. Then you're getting something back for it, and I think that's fine. I think if you just like Tamiya, in association with Lockheed Martin do not give a shit. I agree absolutely with Luke. Lockheed Martin is selling F-35s at 100 million a pop. That's 10 times the size of the Hornby Group in total. The amount of money they're getting from licensing is piss all for models. So do they really give a shit? No, they don't. It's just about control of their brand. So it is to show people who's boss. Now, if Tamiya or whoever is getting something back from Lockheed Martin, then absolutely, officially licensed product, we work with Lockheed Martin, you can use that in marketing, blah, blah, blah. But if you're just making a generic thing that looks like an F-35 and just calling it, American stealth fighter, I'm absolutely 100% fine with that. And if that's going to be a couple of pounds cheaper because Lockheed Martin, who deal in selling weapons, that's, they're not a nice company, they deal in death, essentially. That is their business. Then I don't really care. So, for me, it's absolutely fine. I don't mind. I think it's quite amusing, some of the ways that people get around it, like Gecko, well-known KT/Y ambulance. It's hilarious. But if I was Dale, I paid all the money for licensing, would I be pissed off? Yes. But then perhaps he shouldn't, or he should have got something back for it, And if that's worth it to a company, Italeri, Revell, whoever it is, to get the licensing and the official sponsorship, if that gives them something back, then I think that's all well and good. They can play that card, and they should play that card. But if it doesn't, why do it? You're not getting anything other than like, oh, Lockheed Martin will leave us alone. Lockheed Martin aren't going to come after what? You quit? Hundreds, pounds, thousands of pounds. It's irrelevant, So yeah, I think it's absolutely fine as a practice. I think licensing has only come out of that monetization part of corporatism. So I don't really fundamentally agree with licensing like that unless you are. It's to stop the brand name being misused. But if you're just making a reproduction of, a car or something, if you're not calling it a Lamborghini, it's not inflecting on your brand. So, tough.
Yeah. Well, I take all that on board. As you said, they're protecting their rights. That's what they're doing by asking companies to pay for it. But, it's like I always remember when the Ferret Scout got released by Airfix, and the moan more than anything wasn't how good the kit was the fact they didn't have Dunlop on the tires. Do you know what I mean? But that's another thing to get permission to license.
Yeah, and what people should do if they have a moan about that is go and buy Pirelli tires and write to Dunlop and say, I'm buying Pirelli because you won't give licensing, won't allow your name to be used on scale model kits. It's costing you this money. Screw you. It comes from corporate greed. So yeah, I'm 100% okay with people using it. If it's official, I can understand it. If you're saying this is a Lamborghini reproduction of a Lamborghini, then Lamborghini do have the right to protect that name and say, okay, we want to look at this and make sure it's up to our standards. That's absolutely fine. You're just going to call it a sports car and it looks exactly like a Lamborghini. They're not going to sue because they don't have a leg to stand on. There's no infringement. There's no fouls. Fair use. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, I think it's very simple.
As it's been pointed out, a lot of the companies, it's old stuff like Austin don't exist really anymore, Bedford don't exist anymore. So that's why they're doing it. I think if I'm pretty sure that if Tamiya brought out let's say, a McLaren F1 car and just called it a Formula One car, and it looked very similar to, say, a Red Bull, even though the decals were slightly different, and it wasn't a bull, it was a calf, and it wasn't called Red, it was called Res.
Well, Red Bull did that as well themselves. It's called Toro Rosso.
Yeah, I think they would. Because I was saying, surely it's up to the actual trademark owners to go after these companies. Is that if for instance, like Land Rover is different kettle of fish to me, because Land Rover is that it's a big brand, and I don't think Airfix would even. Well, I can't say that, or Revell even would even dream of releasing a vehicle that looks like or looks exactly as a Land Rover without the fear of being, without getting a new arsehole torn.
No, because
I think the difference is, though, sorry, Alex, if you look at companies like Airfix, Revell, and look at where they're located in the world, and I think Alex is absolutely right. And the example he used of the F-35, do Lockheed Martin really give a shit? They don't care. You're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars in revenue every single year. They don't care that they might make 8 pence off a tamiya. They don't. But if you look at where they're located, so if you look at Airfix, Revell, that are located in the traditional Western world, where there are trading standards, rules, regulations, and all this stuff that they are subjected to as businesses. If you look at other places in the world where that doesn't exist, these model kit manufacturers have no fear. They don't give a toss. They don't care, because even if Land Rover or Lockheed Martin, that wouldn't be bothered anyway, but even if they did and said, you owe us $12 million because you've sold this many kits over the last decade, a lot of these companies go, well, we're not paying it. What are you going to do?
Or they close the company and reform it under a different Chinese name.
Yeah, which is where Airfix and Revell and companies like that are massively up against it, because they operate their business in parts of the world where there would be consequences to that.
But do you not think, though, that they're just trying to protect their asset? As it doesn't matter about the money, it's about they're protecting their IP as well. Because, I'm pretty sure if, just say for instance, Trumpeter brought out an F-35B and had Russian decals to it, there'll be war to pay. Look, they would be right over there.
So if you've got, the issue here is, what could you sue over, right? And it's about names, because they're trademarks, they're copyrighted. The actual image of it isn't, right? The actual rendition of it isn't copyrighted. You can't copyright that. You can copyright elements, you can copyright names and stuff, and you can copyright, individual unique pieces, but you can't copyright, the reflection of something.
Okay.
So if you could make something that looks like a Land Rover and you call it something different, and you really, what comes down to it, like I use a silly example here, is the little cake episode, right? And Colin the Caterpillar cake from Marks and Spencer's. Marks and Spencer's took them to court because it looks the same, and they lost the case. And they lost it because you can't copyright a bloody cake. You can copyright the name, but not the cake.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that's true, because that's the same with the penguin biscuit thing with
Puffin, isn't it?
Yeah, penguin and puffin. But they did have to change the color, because Asda had it red and the word puffin, and it was the same biscuit, and they had to change it, and they had to change the look of it as well, because they couldn't have it as red biscuit, a red thing. They had to have it as a green. I remember that. Yeah.
If Airfix were making cars, it's a different story, right? Because it's a model kit. A court would throw it out because it's just like, oh, somebody could confuse this for a real Lamborghini. No, they couldn't. It's a 1/43 scale reproduction. You have no case here. If you called it a Lamborghini, now you've used a a trademarked, copyrighted name.
Yes.
Now we have something to go at. It doesn't matter. The thing can not look like a Lamborghini at all, and you could still see.
Called it one, yeah.
Mm.
So
And
Luke's absolutely right, though, in the terms of this is all within the world of Western legal processes. In China, I mean, look at Apple with iPhones, right? They moved iPhone production, iPad production out to China, and the Chinese just basically copied them one for one. And Apple can't do anything about it. They've been chasing them for decades. They can't get them, can't get any money out of it. Because China's just not, it doesn't work that way. It's just like, yeah, your Western laws are nice, great. You're still buying on knockoff iPads though, so we don't care.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I get that, but with Apple, it's more about the software, isn't it? For them, they're so hard on the, they're so hard on the actual software that's why they push. Because like it says, I think iPhones, and I think generally these kind of phones, these iPhones, I think they're at their peak now. How good they should be by the look and feel, if you know what I mean. Every year, we're going to make the bezel a bit smaller. Is buy another phone. They're getting to the point of that to add another button. I get all that, I do. But going back to all this, so I was under the impression that the reason why Airfix and Revell and the Italeri and all that and Tamiya to a big extent was that it gives them credence to say that we can actually call it this, and it protects the user, I suppose, because in theory you could pick up that Land Rover from Gecko and it will say what it does, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be absolutely spot on to what a Land Rover is. I just want to, if anybody's seen the kit, I know it's been thing. Is it an accurate Land Rover where the Airfix one is fairly accurate? Is the Gecko one good as that? Is it?
yeah, it's bang on.
That is one thing I think that you can really push is that if you are working in association with Land Rover, and you can say, oh well, Land Rover gave us access to this. We spoke to them, but blah 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 blah. That adds something that you can use in marketing, that you can use in your PR, and should be able to push the sales of the kit, which you can't do if you're not licensing that name.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
But if you're not getting that, why would you license? It's just like otherwise it just does come back to that. Like, well, okay, you want to use our name, you've got to pay us money. It's just like,
and I don't necessarily subscribe to just because. Let's use Airfix as an example.
Yeah.
Just because they've got an official trademark, whether that be Austin, Land Rover, they've paid that company to be able to use it on their kits. It doesn't guarantee the quality of the kit.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So I've built both the Gecko and the Airfix ambulances.
Okay, let's really open up. Let's really open up the floodgates here. What if Gecko released a Shannon class lifeboat and called it Rescue Boat, and it looks exactly like the RNLI's lifeboat? It's orange and blue, the decals there, and now, how would you feel morally about that?
I would feel morally
down to the consumer, doesn't it? And that is where Airfix should really be pushing on the PR and the marketing, I think, is that
because Airfix is 90 pence.
Because they're not supporting the RNLI if you're buying Rescue Boat from a Chinese company, whereas you're supporting the RNLI if you do for Airfix, and there's valid capital in that.
Is it?
Ultimately, it's down to the consumer. If you want to buy that Rescue Boat and not support the RNLI, okay, people might look down on you, but it's your choice at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but you shouldn't.
I don't think anybody would do an RNLI boat now. But I'm just saying that if they think, Airfix have sold a lot of these lifeboats, I guarantee that a lot of them have been sold because the RNLI have bought them, and they are selling like hotcakes from the RNLI shops. And that, I think, as I said, there was no licensing. I don't think Airfix bought licensing, but they guaranteed that there would be. So if you think about that every kit they'll get £1 back. I'm just wondering if you could use that as a guide on how much Airfix are paying, say, to use, I don't know, Lockheed Martin F-35B Lightning II. Are they giving Lockheed Martin £1 per or 50p a kit for that
Maybe.
use of the word Lockheed Martin?
Maybe.
I mean, usually the licenses from big companies, I mean, I have experience with Microsoft in this respect.
Yeah.
For the Halo franchise. They charged a flat 5-figure fee just to start the license, and then there was, so basically you pay this, multiple tens of thousands of pounds, and then we get involved in the project and we take a percentage of the profits.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap thing to do, licensing,
No.
but it's very company specific. So obviously Microsoft with Halo, that's a very specific thing, and it's going to be high. Lockheed Martin, I can't imagine is cheap. Because again, they're a defense company, and the numbers they deal in, like I say, an F-35 is about 100 million, depending on which version you get. So it's not going to be cheap to be able to use the Lockheed Martin logo.
No, not at all. And it goes back to, is it worth the company's time and effort to enforce that sort of stuff? So, for example, the RNLI kit is £1 for every kit is donated to the RNLI. So if Airfix got a deal with Lockheed Martin and said, for every kit we sell of your F-35, we're going to give you £1. And even if they sold 1 million kits, which I'd imagine is quite ambitious for Airfix, £1 million to Lockheed Martin is nothing. It's nothing. Some of their missiles cost 3 times that. And they blow those up on a range. They don't care. It's nothing. I think, and this comes back to us as modelers, really, and the consumer and everyone else. For us, this is more of a big deal than it is for anyone else. We are a very, very small niche hobby. And the revenue that is associated to every company within our hobby that is generated from us as consumers in the global economic picture for every other business and every other area of the economy, this is pence. It's nothing. No one cares. We care because we're passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
But actually, no one else really gives a shit. Because it's,
and I think
that numbers.
Sorry, look at me, Peter.
I go.
I was just going to say, following on from that, I think it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, Moss, about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
For us, and Western companies like Airfix, Revell, and all the rest, I think it's more about what sort of image do you want to create of your company. That's kind of more of it, right? So Airfix are just like, they're doing licensing. What does that create in the modeling community, which is, as Luke said, very small, very niche? How do we view those companies? The view of most people of Gecko is that they do sidestep, they play a bit fast and loose with this, the well-known ambulance with Princess, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We know that, the royal estates aren't getting any money back from that. Whereas if Airfix did it, it would have some sort of seal of approval on it, and that gives a feel to Airfix. So again, it's more on marketing and PR and how we view a company, what they're doing, rather than, I think the legal side of it. Because the legal side of it, as Luke said, some of these companies don't care; they're too big, and then otherwise it's what's enforceable. Because lawsuits aren't free. So they've got to look at, okay, we're going to go again and actually pursue this. What are we going to get out of it? And there's a numbers cruncher somewhere in each of these companies, and it's just like, while we get these license fees, it's great. If somebody contested one, we probably wouldn't go to court because it's not worth it.
I just want to add to what the Flying Dutchman, because he's brought up a really good point. Looking at 2 Revell kits in my stash, the Shelby and the Brabant. The Shelby has licensing mark on the box. The Brabant hasn't. The associates workers were being portrayed again. I get that. So I went and jumped on and grabbed my. I'm sure this is a Lidl's special because it's an 868217. So anything that's A6 is basically a starter set which you find in Lidl or Aldi. So this is the Willys MB Jeep On the back is a sticker saying authorized product with a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it comes up with validate your product. So, there's a, and to be fair, I wouldn't give this to anyone for a starter set. Would I shite? It's when I say a motherfucker kit, it is, it's awful, even for me, and I've been modeling for 30 years. When I built mine, I was crimping at some of the stuff I had to do with it because of the small parts that I basically chewed a part of me chair away. The sponge was up my ass because I was, oh no, but there's that one. Now the Spitfire is BAE Systems and it's got licensed BAE registered trademark. Spitfire is a licensed thing. But when it comes to the MiG-17, nothing on here about licensing. Nothing at all. The Mikoyan Gurevich MiG-17F, nothing on the box about who owns the license to it. It just says that model design tool in 2019, all rights reserved, made in India. Nothing on here about.
Well, can you imagine, Moss, if it was an officially Mikoyan Gurevich sanctioned kit, how that would have gone down a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be selling those kits anymore, would they?
No.
But it sort of goes to Luke's point before about enforceability, doesn't it? They haven't given a damn about a Russian company because they know that way they won't come after them.
Yeah.
Here, so.
Yeah.
I just hope they've got a Geiger counter with their letters.
But no, it's a very interesting thing to look into it. I think there's some credence there. If you see Jeep officially licensed product by Jeep, that they've got the say so. They're happy with how it looks and everything.
Okay, but Moss, I take real issue with that actually. Like Jeep are making money from an officially licensed product. Jeep didn't exist until they made those. They weren't Jeeps originally. They were general purpose vehicles. Jeep originated after the war coming from
Yes,
Jeep. They weren't Jeeps then. They weren't officially Jeeps because the company didn't exist. So it's just like they're getting licensing to something which actually wasn't a Jeep. So, it's kind of, again, when I go back to the rude corporatism piece, it's just what can we make money out of, without any effort on our own part. As Luke said, just having a license doesn't mean that they've worked with the company. Now, if you have worked with the company, and it's just like, yeah, we got all this back, that's great. But just getting a license isn't. It's just like, yes, you can use my name. Thank you. I'll take the 10 grand. That's what they're doing,
Yeah, Penny Pitstop says she just checked my Airfix starter and the Red Arrow's Hawk has a holographic license sticker. Yeah, the quick builds have very much got stickers with holograms on. I think, if I remember rightly, when I built the Ford, is it F-140? I think it was. The truck, the Ford truck. That came with a scratching thing. You scratch off the panel when you could win a prize, and then when you got to it, all you got was a wallpaper for your iPhone or something. It was like, fuck, I even tried to find a 5p to scratch it off with was the annoyance. So that was, but yeah, I think, how far do you go with this licensing thing? Surely then, if Airfix has done the right thing and said we're going to license his product of the Austin, and then somebody then releases that same vehicle in, with extra bits and that, surely it's up to that company then to go offer them, and I just wonder if Airfix did go and say, right, this is so Hella, for instance, the Focus World Rally, World Rally car thing, right? They haven't got the word Ford on it. I don't know why he hasn't got the word Ford on it. There doesn't seem to be anything here saying it's been licensed by Ford. But I do wonder whether if Airfix just stopped doing that, we all know what the vehicle is, whether that's a way forwards for them. Not worry about licensing. Like I said before.
I think that comes back to what Alex was saying about how Airfix want to be perceived as a brand, as a company, because it gives them legitimacy.
Yeah.
If they do the right thing, then what they're trying to do, I would imagine, is create sort of brand trust. You know, they're a nice company. They're good to deal with. They do things properly. Unfortunately, Gecko couldn't give two shits how they're perceived. They don't care. They're there to make money. It's a business. And if their profit margin is dictating that they're doing things right, they will continue to do it regardless.
I do wonder whether I do wonder that if they got more clout in saying, "Hi, we're going to use your vehicle as a model here. Do you mind if you just put your name on it? No money taken, but if you want to give it," because to me, I think the Ford was very interesting because when I scanned that code for Ford, it took me to the Ford website to win a prize. And you had, before you can win, you had to type in your email address. Surely that is more beneficial to Ford getting my details than it would be giving Airfix any money at all.
Absolutely. But that's this global data collection that all companies are trying. How many times do you go into a retail store now, and instead of them giving you a hard copy paper receipt, do you want us to email you the receipt? No, I don't, because I don't want to give you my email address, because then all you're going to do is bombard me with emails, promotions, and everything else. I want a paper receipt here and now.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you my email address, but it's
even
just
if you're going to get
a way of obtaining data.
Even if you're going to go and get even if you're going to go and get that book with the carbon paper on, I want a receipt.
Write it out. Even now, I don't want to give you my email address.
Yeah,
because it's all about data collection, isn't it? Everything. How many people, me included, go onto a website and the first thing that pops up is cookies? That's the first thing now that pops up. GDPR or whatever it is. It's the first thing that pops up. How many people just because they want to see what's on the website just click accept all without even? Well, guess what? That company, that website is now collecting data on you. Yeah, it's just the way of the world now. Yeah.
Andy, I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't be me that'd be suing. It'd be Tamiya. As I'm still waiting for the knock at the door about me using Tamiya in the title of my book. But yeah, I thought about this when I wrote my book, whether I should use the word Tamiya in it. You know, I spilt my extra thin. You know. But I thought, bollocks, I'll put Tamiya. If I get told off, I get told off, because all I got to do is take it down and just redo the cover. That's what I have to do.
But let's go back to, I mean, obviously it's private, but however much you make profit from the sale of a book, and you've sold 1,000 books, for example, in comparison to the cost of Tamiya starting a legal action against you for what they're likely to recover, they're not going to bother. It's basic economics. It's going to cost them more to put you in front of a judge, for the judge to say, you need to give to me 18 pence for every book you sell. They're not going to recoup the cost of the barristers that they've had to put in the courtroom and all the work. So they just bother. They just won't bother.
Right. Well, I've said it all along. The reason I put Tamiya in it was because I thought if somebody typed in Tamiya in Amazon, somewhere along the line in that search result, it's going to have my book.
Absolutely.
And and that's why I did it. Well, the other title I had in mind was Confessions of an Airfix Fanboy, is what the actual other title was going to be. But I thought, sod it. Let's go for Tamiya first, and then But like a lot of this, at the end of the day, my argument was I didn't know who to contact Tamiya. I'm trying to advertise outdoor painting, Tamiya Model Magazine. I've emailed them 3 times and I've rang them and I've never got a response. I'm willing to give them, so I was going to ring Tamiya, and I thought, why don't I just do it and ask for forgiveness later? That's all it was. I thought, I'm sorry, but so it's.
I think a lot of it comes from this kind of litigious.
How many of us call our vacuum cleaner the Hoover?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not a Hoover. Mine's a Miele. Do you know what I mean? It's not a Hoover, but I call it the Hoover. Hoover is a brand name. It's not
Q-tips. we call any Q-tip a Q-tip, and a Q-tip.
Yeah, and it's not.
Penny.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's the same with everything. It's like, the other day I was in the pub, and the woman said, "Can you just get the Dyson and clean that up for us?" And the woman came out with a Henry, and I was like, it's like, but that's what they say now. Yeah, they don't Hoover now; they Dyson.
Yeah,
get the Dyson out, and the best thing was this Henry Hoover was a battery one. I've never seen a battery Hoover before. It was like, whoa, look at that. So that was
because it's so commonplace.
Yeah. So,
for example, I don't know, your friend or whoever will say, "Oh, I'm just going to do the hoovering, and I'll be with you in half an hour," or whatever whatever. Well, hoovering is an adjective, isn't it? It's a description of a task, but actually, that word is a brand name.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying.
And if they're using correct English, is I'm doing the vacuuming, but no one says that. I'm doing
when I put Tamiya in the title, my other argument is that I mentioned Tamiya loads of times in my book. I mentioned Airfix, Revell, in my book. I've mentioned all these brands, and I did ask the question, do I need to put TM or anything after it or anything? And they said, well, not really. It's just a generic, I don't think they're going to come chasing you, at it, but. It's like when and I thought about it. Well, when you read, when you read James May's book, he doesn't have Ford trademark every time he uses the word Ford in his book. You know what I mean? Or
no, I mean all of that falls under fair use.
Yeah.
So it's when you start to, a title, is more
fair
problematic, if you want to say. But you're talking about using a product. So it's not like you are saying this is endorsed by Tamiya, because then Tamiya probably would come after you.
Yeah.
But if you're using, I did this to something, it's just like, I was driving my Jaguar. That's not suable. It's not actionable. But the whole litigious nature of things, which kind of started, in the, I guess, 80s, 90s in the US, really was the origination of it. It's kind of permeated Western culture now. Can you imagine if, and I think Julian Hall mentioned this actually in one of the comments, can you imagine if we didn't have to do that? So if Airfix didn't do any licensing, didn't have to worry about that, the amount of money that they would save, if they invested that into tooling everything they've tooled in the last couple of years in the UK instead, or investing in somebody to do QC in India, for instance, would that have had a more positive impact than licensing those names over the past couple of years?
Yeah.
So I would question, the whole premise of licensing for licensing's sake, rather than having an association with a company or working with a company. I don't think, because somebody also mentioned, about supporting businesses and stuff. This isn't supporting British businesses, because most of these corporations aren't British. Supporting a British organization would be buying Airfix products that aren't licensed, that are produced in the UK, tooled in the UK, rather than tooled in, wherever, India or Poland or whatever. And if Airfix had the money to do that because they weren't spending on licensing, I think that would be an enormously good thing. And how much happier would the modeling community be? And what a better reputation would Airfix have with not having QC issues? Which is the number one detractor, I think. I think most people will probably agree. Short shots, warpage, scratches, QC issues are Airfix's biggest bugbear, because the designs they're coming out with pretty up there. Some of the engineering is top notch, Tamiya plus level, but it's the execution of it on a reliable basis, So I don't care if something's not a Bedford or an Austin truck if the QC is better.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Gecko sell models, right? Because modelers mainly judge on the end product, not what it's called. Generally.
And like I said earlier, I've built both of those, the Airfix and the Gecko. In my humble opinion, the Gecko is a better kit, because it's more detailed, it gives you more options, you can do more with it. The Airfix is a very shake and bake, So the fact that they've called it the correct name, I don't really care. That Willys Jeep, they put a Jeep sticker on it, but it doesn't guarantee the quality of that kit. It's an awful kit. It's terrible. The windscreen's like 2/3 the length of the bonnet. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't guarantee that Jeep got their engineers to have an input on that kit, and they built it and it's accurate and everything else. It doesn't guarantee that. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
Yeah. As I said, it is much. It was just something that was brought up, and I thought, yeah, let's discuss it and see what people think. So, you know, it's like I said, like I said, going back to some people say about my book. Yeah, I get that I'm on thin ice with it, but then, you know, there's loads of books out there, use the word IKEA in it and stuff like that. You know, I think it's generically, you know, my mum went to Spa and she never came back. You know, stories like that. But we'll see. You know, if they come knocking, I'll just take out the word Tamiya. That's what I'll do. And just,
I think you're fine, Moss. Your fair use is.
And I tell you what, you know, it is. You know, all told, the whole book cost me just under £1,000 to get it to a position. To get it looked at and proofread, and and the time I spent writing it and everything, and I haven't even made any of that money back yet. So, it was. I've always wanted to become an author, and I thought, fuck it, let's have a go, shall we? And well off the bucket list, but this is it. You know, you're going to buy the better kit, and if missing a badge, just get a resin printer out and make one. You know, we're getting to that point now, aren't we? Where, you know, it's like I've always wanted to see an F-35B Lightning in position on a diorama, and I'd love to see how people would create the steps, because you cut out, you know, and then build the steps in, because I think it look, you know, if you see an F-35B Lightning with the steps out, it looks impressive. It's it's not like a ladder, it's like a long pole with places, you know, angle iron.
But you can buy those now. You know, you can buy the aftermarket 3D printed pod covers, ladders, everything. And it's a big thing at the moment in the sort of Warhammer world, because Warhammer or Citadel Games Workshop are incredibly protective over their intellectual property. Incredibly protective. Well, now with the advent of 3D printers and people that are good on CAD, it's very, very common that people will print their own figures, their own vehicles, etc., etc. So the way that Warhammer are fighting back, or one of the ways, is, for example, if you go to a tabletop gaming competition that's licensed by Games Workshop as the people hosting that competition, before you can even put a figure on the table, they have people there that will inspect your army and make sure that they're genuine.
They weigh them.
They do all sorts. They'll visually inspect them, they'll weigh them, they'll do everything to make sure that it is an official Games Workshop product. If it isn't, then it's my ball, I'm going home. You can't play. It's as simple as that. And so they're very protective of it. And another thing that a lot of people have fallen foul of is sort of fan generated content. So with the advent of the internet and YouTube and Twitch and all that sort of stuff, animation, a lot of people have used the Warhammer world and used that intellectual property and then created sort of 20-minute cartoons, animations that are really, really good, and people love them. However, Games Workshop have taken many, many of these people to court, and it's cost them a lot of money to pay Games Workshop damages almost, because they haven't got permission to use the intellectual property of Games Workshop. And it's a massive, it's been going on for about 3 years now. It's a massive issue
We had it with paint. We had it with paint not so long ago. As other Games Workshop or somebody, this girl did a review of these paints, and they kicked off about it. And they said, "Oh, you've used our name in your title or something." And they went to, they copyright striked her. And then everybody went against her, and they were like, "Oh, it wasn't us. It was a company that we used to protect her." Fuck off. You don't. That doesn't. Imagine if Airfix turned around one day and said, "We don't want you reviewing our kits, or using our name in your, they never will, obviously, because any sort of,
But they would be absolutely within their rights to do so.
Exactly.
But the thing is, Games Workshop are.
Charlottesville.
Somebody said that Games Workshop are the worst. Yes and no, because Games Workshop have their own universe, right? They've created this, they've got the lore and everything, and they have a unique ecosystem, right? Because it is a self-contained bubble. They run the painting competitions, the Golden Demon. They run their tournaments, which are official. If you want to go and play in a non-official Warhammer League, doesn't matter. You can use whatever you want. You can use Lego counters or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you want it to be official, and they've put a lot of money into making their brand and their official stuff, so it's in their world. So it's like trying to say something is like Star Wars, right? You do that, Disney will come after you, because they've got leagues of people whose job it is to just trawl the internet and find this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're not officially licensed, then either we want money or you've got to stop. And that's kind of fair enough, right? Because if you are gaining, revenue for whatever means by using their name, by utilizing their world, you kind of have to license it because it's a discrete ecosystem.
Yeah.
But Modline's not like that.
Not like that.
Our world is completely open. And you can make a model of whatever using whatever tools you like. Bolts of wood, bits of tin, plastic kits, whatever. And there's not really anything anybody can do about that.
One thing so like Alex said, if you're playing an official Games Workshop tournament, and that doesn't mean you're at Warhammer World or in a Games Workshop store. There are tournaments throughout the world that are officially licensed by Games Workshop. One of the rules that applies is what you see is what you get. So that means if you say, for example, that Space Marine is carrying a bolt gun, and they're the rules you're using for that particular figure, if that figure on the table has a bolt pistol, you can't do that. It has to have the exact weapon that you say it's got, etc. It's why a lot of people magnetize the kits so they can swap the weapons out depending on how they want to use it in the game. The gaming center I play at, which is an unofficial gaming center, so not only Warhammer, it does things like Star Wars Legion, Pokemon, Dungeons and Dragons, and all different game systems. It doesn't matter. That's not enforced there because it's not official. Disney are exactly the same. Disney are brutal with their intellectual property. Absolutely brutal. You say something's connected to Disney and you haven't got permission, they will come for you. They will come for you, and they're very, very powerful. Very powerful. And they will lose money. They don't mind losing money on lawsuits to protect.
The Acolyte, they've lost money on. Sorry, that's
really
point. Disney are the worst, not Games Workshop, definitely.
Yeah, they're brutal.
And Bendito says here, the IP process, like Games Workshop, works with the Formula One cars. Teams now claim the IP on their car designs, hence no modern F1 cars or even older releases. The Frank Williams 14B, for example. But then surely that would be the same if, like we're talking about now with the F-35B. Then they will
ridiculous.
But
isn't
it down to the individual company as to whether they want to enforce that or not? And how, like we all know, Disney are brutal. They'll lose money to protect their intellectual property. Games Workshop will do the same. If the F1 teams are prepared to do the same, then the manufacturers of the kits aren't going to risk it. They're just not going to go down that road. Whereas maybe Ford, and if you're releasing a Focus kit, for example, Ford perhaps aren't as brutal and not prepared to lose money, so the manufacturers will risk it, maybe. Because it's down to the company as to whether they enforce it or not, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's also down to, so if you think about the Formula Ones, they're protecting again their brand. So it's like Williams used to, back in the day. Now it's, Toro Rosso or whatever. So again, if a company is going to make a Formula One car, and it's obviously a Red Bull, if you're not having a Red Bull license and you can't use the decals and everything, you're not really going to sell a Formula One car. Yeah. So it is that they have to have the licensing, and if they know that the Formula One companies are very protective, like Luke said, it's just not worth the bother. Because if you've got to go to the licensing, how many Formula One cars are you going to sell? There's a formula. I'm sure you could work it out on Excel of how many kits you'd have to sell with the licensing cost, how much you'd have to price that to actually make it worthwhile. And that's probably quite a high one.
Well,
now, I know Fujimi did it with the Tyrrell, the 6-wheeled one.
Yeah.
That's an official Tyrrell. But that's such a distinctive, iconic car. It's probably one of the most purchased Formula One cars ever in terms of model form. But other stuff, and like Nick said in the comments here about, Games Workshop not inventing dwarfs and trolls and stuff. No, they didn't, which is why about, 10, 15 years ago now, they changed the names of all of their in-house races. Instead of like elves, you have the Eldar now. And, all these made-up names so that they can trademark them. They're all trademark copyrighted, so you can't use it.
They'll change a letter within the name of something. So, for example, the word orc.
It's now Uruk, isn't it?
If it's ORK, that's the Games Workshop or Citadel trademark. If it's ORC, which is the traditional spelling of orc, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Celtic West Disney sounds like a Mickey Mouse outfit to me. Yeah, no, as I said, it's been a very, very, we've all had the horror stories of Games Workshop and Warhammer, and like I said, let's go back to the old days when we would play Hero Quest. You know what I mean? We're playing
Games Workshop product.
Games Workshop product now, is it?
It is a game. It always has been. It's always a Games Workshop product. So the idea of that. So
they go for a shit ton of money. The original ones. Two
board games were released back in late 80s, early 90s. One being Hero Quest and one being a game called Space Crusade.
Space Marine.
So Hero Quest was based on the sort of traditional Warhammer world, orcs, trolls, barbarians, that sort of stuff. And Space Crusade was based on the 40K universe. Games Workshop collaborated with MB Games, I believe it was, and they released those two games to the mass market, so you could buy them in, Christmas. You go through the Argos catalog as a kid, wouldn't you, circling what you wanted. Yeah. So it was mass market available, and the idea being, from Games Workshop point of view, was that was like it was a gateway drug, essentially, to get people interested in that. And then if you Google it, they then released things like, there was a Games Workshop only product, Advanced Hero Quest, Advanced Space Crusade, where it started to get a bit more intense. The rules were a lot more complicated, etc., etc. It was a gateway drug. Now they've re-released Hero Quest as a new edition, but if you can find an original boxing of Hero Quest with none of the figures made, as it came at the time, still in the cellophane, it's worth an absolute fortune.
Yeah, I know that on eBay, the Advanced Hero Quest, the mint condition one will set you back $250.
Yeah,
quid. I'm just looking on there now, and 1989 release kit, £75, 100% complete.
Was it MB Games?
MB Games.
It was.
Milton Bradley.
Mention of
That's where I
Warhammer
knew
in
them.
there, I think. There's no. Oh, there's Games Workshop there back in 1989.
Yeah, it was a dual or a collaboration between the two.
Mm. Yeah, I had it, and
Well, you also had the Star Trek games, didn't you? The ball game, which was the Starfleet Tactical Simulator by FSA.
Mm.
Or FASA,
But
sorry.
Battleships or Battleship was actually the MB game.
You say
Now owned by
battleship.
Hasbro. So you can, and it was also it was like some people did it because obviously Battleships, the game you can play with paper and stuff. I think Sea Battle was also a trademarked version of it.
Mhm.
So yeah, you can trademark anything if you can
Yeah.
find a unique name for it.
Yeah. Hero Quest. I never knew that was Games Workshop, but I thought Games Workshop was was like a 2000 onwards thing. I never realised it's been going on.
No, Games Workshop started. So essentially, in a nutshell, the history's on YouTube and stuff. You can watch a video about it. But it was started by 3 guys back in the 70s. So that was when Dungeons and Dragons was massive in the US.
Mm.
It was gaining a lot of traction. It started to come across the Atlantic into the UK, and these 3 guys started casting figures out of white metal, and they were selling them at like out the back of a transit van, basically. And then they developed Warhammer: The Old World, which was an equivalent sort of universe to Dungeons and Dragons. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay came next, which was a Warhammer-based role-playing game, the same as Dungeons and Dragons. So it was a role-playing game. And then they started casting these figures and started sort of tabletop wargaming, and then 40K came, and etc. etc. And that's how it started. And those 3 guys now are worth a lot of money.
But that's it, yeah. The three guys. I was this year's old. I found out today that it was founded by the greatest action book. This wargaming book that I was reading when I was at school.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson.
That's right, yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, I read their books, and we read their little dice and a little notebook, and was scratching the book, what you were doing.
Do you remember, probably when you were at school, so you get books, they were generally paperback books, and they were like role-playing books.
Yeah, that's what.
So you'd read like a couple of paragraphs, and then you'd be given 2 options, and if you picked option 1, it would like go to page 110, and then you carry on.
Death Trap Dungeon was the first one.
Yeah. Then CITV, or the equivalent in those days, so children's TV on ITV, developed a game show called Nightmare.
Yeah.
And that was on the back of those. So it's decades and decades ago that it all started.
When I was growing up, when I was about 10 years old, 11 years old, I went to a library and I was looking for Steve Jackson and Livingstone books. And I only bought these about 4 or 5 years ago, because I remember I tried to work out what who they were. But Blade of the Poisoner by Douglas Hill. They're not games, but they're fighting fantasy books. And I remember reading these in a library when I was about 11 or 12 years old, and somebody had them at a stall at a car boot, and I picked them up for 50 pence each. And I've been meaning to get around to reading them, because it was, but I remember back in the day, it was a fantastic story.
If that's your thing, so now a sort of parent company, if you like, to Games Workshop, is called Black Library. And they do novels, all based in either the Warhammer 40K world or the Warhammer world. And they have proper authors, they're proper novels, and it's called Black Library. And it's all based in those worlds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Henry Cavill is a big Black Library reader.
Yeah. So I got these, and I thought, but the reason I haven't read them is I can't remember which was. There's part 1 and part 2. I can't remember which way you read them. Was it this one first or that one first? You know what I mean? It's like, but yeah, Douglas Hill it was. So yeah, I was into Fighting Fantasy books with the old dice and everything else. But yeah, I haven't done them for years and years, but I remember seeing them too for sale. Oh, I'll have them too. But yeah, going back, Steen says, I think the problems with Formula One cars and other race cars is all the advertisers on the cars, and that is something which Airfix was saying when they released something, like they didn't bother with putting Dunlop on the tires because it'd be another license they'll have to go for or to cover themselves for. If you imagine Formula One cars, I think anything pre 1995, 1996 was full of cigarette advertising. You'll never see them again on a model car, would you?
No.
Your Embassy #1s and your Benzel. I remember when Jordan used to change it from Benson the Hedges to Buzzing Hornets and Bent Hedgehogs and things like that, didn't they, on there?
Yeah, there's almost no 60s F1 cars, you know, or
yeah,
early
Well, the
70s.
iconic John Player Special Lotus.
The John.
Yeah.
Is
Lotus.
that Lotus? Is that John Player Special on that poker one?
Yeah.
Wow.
But a lot of as far as I know, I don't build cars really, and I certainly don't build F1 cars. But a lot of the F1 car kits now that you can get, you don't get the sponsorship decals in the kit. It's like a representation of, but there is a plethora of aftermarket decal sets and companies that will provide you the original stuff. So, and none of that's trademarked. I can't imagine Extra Decal or whatever going to Marlborough and saying we want to make a decal. You know what I mean? They're just not. It's just a thing.
I was under the impression that you couldn't sell them.
Oh, mate, there's thousands of decal sets.
Right. I'm just saying, I just thought that, like,
yeah, and to be fair, I'm sure if the manufacturers of those decal sets were based in the UK or the US or Canada or wherever, they would be in trouble. But
yeah,
tobacco, you know, tobacco sponsorship and that sort of stuff.
You can imagine that you go to a model show and there's a guy there from Germany with a black coat on saying, "Do you want 20 decals?"
And you know, ultimately, these companies and trading standards and everyone, they've got bigger fish to fry. They're not interested that you're selling a set of Marlboro decals for a model car. You know, they don't care.
Yeah,
they really don't care. And with technology now, you can print your own.
Yep.
You know, you can do it in the comfort of your own home, and no one can do a thing about it. They're not the same, though, are they? You know, when you print your own decals, it ain't the same as like a proper decal sheet. Oh, I don't know.
It's more of a pain in the arse.
You've got the right technology, absolutely. But you've got to cut to the lines, haven't you, and everything. You've got to cut them out. And yeah. But if you've got like a silhouette cutter, you've got a decent printer, you've got Photoshop, and you know how to use it. Yeah. We went to the Blue Lamp show last month. There's a guy there, I forget which club it was, but anyway, he was part of the club, and that's his business. So you send him an image or tell him you want a particular aircraft, car, whatever it may be. He will custom design and make you the decals for that for a fee. And cut out as well, so then you get the cut out of the back and film. It would be no different to getting a decal sheet in a kit. And he got examples of his work. Wow. Give me his number because I need some done. I've got his card, I've got his card. Yeah. We'll get him on the show, actually. Get him in contact. We'll have a chat with him about decals. That's his business. So you say, I want, you know, this F1 car from this year, and whatever, and he will scale and produce the decals on your behalf. Yeah. Because I got some from him so I'm about to build a 3D resin printed British Army Saxon from Northern Ireland. Well, on British Army Saxon Northern Ireland, they got like they call them wings, but they're like shields that fold out for sort of public order type situations. Well, on the front of those shields, it got the confidential telephone number that you saw on the side of all the Tangy Land Rovers and stuff, the 0800 number. Yeah. But decals that you can get aren't the best.
if you can find them at that scale. So I spoke to him and he did some for me, and they're no different to Cartograph, really. They're just as good.
Yeah, so Rally Chef's just said the tobacco decals come in two parts, Mal and then Borough. It's up to you how you put them on the model. Well, that's the same with certain German insignia. You know, we get a lot now where they cut through the cross sort of thing, or they put it like in a diamond formation, and then you can just add and take away what you wish. I think it's morality. I think Airfix is in a place where they can do that. You know, you'll never see an Airfix kit with a certain German symbol on. I'm not going to say the symbol because I've heard people have been slapped about a bit for putting it on their channel. But you know what I mean? That certain Indian peace symbol, whatever they call it, you know. So, yeah, or Buddhist, I should say. But you know, you'll never see an Airfix kit, but you will see them in Hasegawa, and I believe you see them in Tamiya in their kits. They will, but they won't be. You'll have to manipulate it to make it look like what it should be. Some are cut as a cross, so you get one bit, and then you get one that's done diagonally, which to me is a lot easier.
That trumpet that I just did was the same way. It came in half.
Came in half, didn't it? Yeah.
Put it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I bought a aftermarket set for the 350th Bismarck, because obviously that symbol, depending on what year and version you're doing of the Bismarck, was on the deck. You know, front and I'm not a shipbuilder, so probably is port and aft or front and rear or whatever. I don't know which one it is, but they're actually on the deck. Big symbols as aircraft recognition symbols, pretty much. So when the decal set arrived, it was the red with a white circle, and then the actual symbol was in sections, just black lines, and you just manipulate it to make it what it should be.
It's funny because I just bought them from, actually, I've got about 3 sheets of different, like World War II fighters, World War II bombers, and then another set of 48 scale. Hakenkreuts, that. And they're all just complete symbols. So
I like that. Yeah.
There's less pissing about. So.
I like that. Isn't it something about, and I don't know this for definite, isn't it something about that in certain countries in the world it's illegal?
Yeah, Germany is a symbol.
So
not illegal in Germany.
No, it's not legal in Germany. It's banned. It was banned, but they relaxed the ruling in Germany.
Yeah, it's not. But it wasn't really banned, was it? You had to use it in an educational situation.
Yeah.
You still got the far righters who have it.
Yeah.
You spray it around and everything. There are those. So Celtic, that's brilliant. The swoosh sticker is fantastic. Yeah. I think that's a great name for it. No, like, can you use the German name for that symbol? Apparently, there's been things said you can't have it on any thumbnails on YouTube. Be careful how you say it. Same with Facebook. You know, as I'm saying, there's a lot of Buddhist community. I think it's Buddhist, or is it Hindu? I can't remember.
It's
Hindu.
Yeah.
And groups have been closed, and you know it was nicked.
So
it's the other way around, though, isn't it? It's the other way around, if I believe.
The rules.
Yes.
On our
it
group,
goes the other way.
One of the rules is do not display that symbol on your, blur it out or put a box over it or whatever, because the Facebook bots, if they identify that symbol in your group, they will literally there and then bin your group completely, delete it, and then that's not a person making that decision. That's their bots that make that decision. They will bin your group, delete it, and the chances of you ever getting that back are virtually zero. That's why that rule exists. That's not an admin rule because we don't like the symbol or we're trying to cancel history or whatever. That is a Facebook rule. It's
serious rule. You know, the reason we've got it on the Scale Model Club page, you know, we got 30,000 members now, and you get the odd one who puts it up. And do you know what? We have to say, look. And what makes me laugh is that what they normally do is they put the pictures back up, but they put a smiley face emoji over them. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's all to do with, you know, We're not.
I've got a video.
Go on.
I got a video which has the German flag from World War II, which had that right in the middle.
Yeah.
It's got a cross and the red borders, and it's on my thumbnail. But my Man's Model Moments logo is half over it,
Yeah.
so it doesn't actually show the whole thing. So
I'm just
ways
scared.
of doing it, but it's about context, isn't it? I mean, like when it was, when Germany was really harsh on it, the neo-Nazis just used a different symbol.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's what it represents, the ideology behind it, rather than the symbol itself.
It's like any symbol, isn't it? So back in sort of the 80s, early 90s, football hooliganism, in the UK, they would all wear the football strips and everything else. Then they were banned via court orders. So they just adopted Stone Island. So they just wear Stone Island to a football match. You know exactly who they are. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Here you go. Here's one for you that I always laugh at. I went to the Imperial War Museum in London. It's if you really want to get to grips of World War II, I recommend to go to the Imperial War Museum. There's a section that they cut off. You got to be over 14 to go in. It's about German, about the Auschwitz and everything, and it's powerful stuff. Powerful. You come out with a tear in your eye. But I remember that on my Apple keyboard is a symbol for the command, and I won't drag the keyboard up. I'll just show you. It's that symbol there. That's the symbol. So on every single Mac, it's at the command button, basically. If you go into the Imperial War Museum and you see the what was the German highest army? What are they called again?
The SS.
Yes, the SS. The SS on their badges and on their belt buckles, they have that symbol. That symbol is on, and I took a picture of it, right? Thinking, look at that. It's the Apple Command logo. I took a picture of it, and this guy from the blackness behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, delete that picture, please. Delete that picture. I was like, oh, okay. I'm just delete it. No photography in here. And he had to delete that because I was going to take a picture of it and go, look at that. It's scary. I was like, but that's it. They pinched every single symbol going, but unfortunately, that swastika, I love it. It's trigger. It's a trigger. It's a trigger symbol.
Yeah.
You know why he asked you to delete that photo, Moss?
No, I don't, to be honest.
Because he was from Apple, and that's a copyrighted.
Yeah, but if you go in there and look at the SS uniform, that symbol is on the belt buckle and on the badge. So yeah,
I always said that Apple were bad.
Yeah.
Saying.
Photography in the Holocaust rooms. Yeah, I didn't read that sign when I walked in. I saw something. I thought that's the Apple symbol for command. So yeah, there's probably a uniform there with the @ symbol. You know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, we have to be careful with that particular thing. And I don't think if it was just the World War II thing, I don't think Facebook would really care. It's the fact that we've got groups that are living now who are trying to use that symbol in a hateful way. I remember there was a company,
like you say, it's the trigger symbol, isn't it? And
symbol.
Groups will adopt that emblem to represent their political view or their stupidity or whatever. And
John, you're letting the side down. Delete your comment, please. Honestly, they read the comments as well. Don't. And he goes, John's gone and typed it in the comments. Don't just delete it, silly sod. We said don't mention it, and then you go into, the swastika. Don't just get rid of it. It's not good. What was I going to say then? Yeah, there was a company who tried to reclaim that symbol, and they had it in like the rainbow colors, and they had the word peace underneath, and they got lambasted for it. You can look online, look it up. Yeah, they were trying to reclaim it as what it should be, as a peaceful symbol, and they had it in like rainbow color. Yeah,
leave it.
You shouldn't try and reclaim it. You shouldn't ban it. Let the neo-Nazis use it, like the Ku Klux Klan. Let them wear their hats and stuff, because then at least we know who they are. You know, better that like we know who they are and they're monitored than they're undercover and spreading their stuff without people knowing it. Because if somebody's wearing one of those symbols, it's just like the first thing you think about them isn't, oh, I'm going to listen to what they're saying. You think this person is a radical extremist, so probably what comes out of their mouth is going to be garbage. So it's label it as what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well, I think we've come to the end of that discussion about copyright. We got to Hitler. Isn't that every debate ends up going back to Hitler?
Don't mention
the first person to officially license things.
Yeah. Oh dear. That's another thing, isn't it? Look on Wikipedia. There's a term for it, isn't it? When every argument ends up going back to Hitler or something, there's an actual term for it, isn't there? An argument. And Andy Wilson, that's a good shout. I never understood that the Finnish version has that symbol, because there's a Blenheim with that symbol on there, isn't there?
In blue and white.
Yeah, in blue and white. I don't know the history.
Yeah, the tanks have a slightly different symbol, a different form of that symbol that we're not allowed to mention.
A different way round. The Finnish one.
No, it looks like it's got
dots or something on it as well, I think.
Yeah, it's called Godwin's Law. That's right, Godwin's Law. There's a certainty that at some point in the discussion it will get invoked. Yeah, I don't know if anybody knows. Oh, the Finnish one is reversed apparently. So, but if you know anything about it, then let me know, because I don't really know the history of it. I've seen a Blenheim in with that thing on it, and it was Finnish. But Joe, I think it's a stupid thing. So if you're flying and you see that symbol, whether you're an ally or not, you would have shot it down, wouldn't you? Silly sods. And it's not tilted at 45 degrees up, but then again, there's a lot of German stuff that wasn't tilted at that angle. There was a lot that was just the symbol, wasn't it? So it's the T-34 at the Tank Museum with the symbol. Yes, that's true. There is.
Yeah, they've only drawn it a few. It was this symbol was still used by the Finnish Air Force.
Yeah.
On their flags until very recently.
Okay.
A form of it was used on the Polish flag since the Middle Ages.
Which was, sorry?
On the Polish.
It was on that flag as well, was it?
And that's since the Middle Ages, because it was, a lot of the Slavic lands, apparently.
Yeah. Well, if you want a little bit of fun, go on to Reddit and look up accidental swastika. It's when you see these people with like the iron gate and the way the metalwork is, you can see the symbol there. They take the mick, don't they? So it's not. So we're not trying to make light of it. We're just saying that it's for some reason, because software can't distinguish between having a bit of a joke and because I was banned from Facebook for 2 weeks over Christmas because my mate sent me a picture on Facebook of a Christmas card with Santa's sack, but it had somebody's testicles through the hole. So I copied and shared it, and I got banned for 2 weeks for putting up a sexually provocative picture. It was a pair of bollocks, But they can't distinguish it. That's the trouble, and that's why we're so careful in our Facebook groups and on YouTube that we don't. It's.
Did you know Rudyard Kipling used to use it on his books?
In his books, yeah, I've got it.
He was heavily influenced by Indian culture. He stopped using it with the rise of fascism.
About 4 years ago, we had. No, maybe more than that. 6 years ago, I had a 1920s copy of the Jungle Book 2, and I took a picture of the contents, and in the bottom of the contents, or on the other page, there was this elephant with that symbol there, and I got got taken down. It's like, you know, when we tried to sell the board game Escape from Codits, it had the symbol in the O.
Yeah.
And we, you know, when you can't, you have to put like a 50p
Yeah,
over that symbol on eBay. You can't sell it.
That was hard, that game.
Yeah.
It was hard to escape from Colditz.
Andy Wilson has said, "Oh, must mention, I went to Medway Model Show and was really impressed with Luke's work in real life."
Ah, thank you.
Bless him. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. You saying, yeah, Kipling was certainly a bit of a character. Right. Well, it's 9:30.
Questions?
9:30 now, folks. So if you've got any questions you want to ask us, ask away in the comments. Put question in capitals and let us know, and we can then discuss anything you so wish. I've got nothing to add apart from I don't understand why Tamiya has released another Porsche when they already had one. They're releasing a brand new Porsche.
Banging though, and I'm like,
yeah,
It does, yeah.
It definitely made me moist.
That
And I think and the amount of carbon they've got going for it as well, isn't it? You know, it's but it just, as I said, it was only 20 years ago. That's what 20 years ago?
nice.
No, 1990, wasn't it? Was it 20 years ago? Can you tell me when they last released that Porsche?
Don't know. No, the Porsche they're releasing is a new tool.
Taggart has a question.
What I'm saying is that when was it? It was they did it originally 20 years ago. But then they've released it again, and it does look pretty smart. I just want to know what the difference was between the two tools. Everybody knows. Anyone? No, it was a GT3, not made 20 years ago. It's a different car, is it? Oh, I see. It was 34 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Just the 77 had some on their planes. Oh, I see. They did. Are Airfix abandoning the 135th tank market? I ordered the tank bundle and only got 3 in stock, including 2 similar Tiger 1s. I don't know what they're doing about the 135th scale market. They're releasing stuff. They've got the Cromwell. So I don't know what they're going to do, because originally the tooling was Academy anyway, wasn't it? So I'm not too sure about that.
Taggart had a question earlier, Moss, just a few comments up about the
Anyone started the 124 scale Spitfire yet? Nope. I haven't. I'm going to know where to put it if I build it. That's the problem I've got.
I mean, after you do the one that they released in 2022, it's like, you know, if you're going to do one, you did it then. And so releasing a new one now, it just seems weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm the same as John. It's just like, it doesn't seem like yesterday since I finished the Mark 9. So.
I sold all my modeling stuff and I bought a 2,800 piece Lego like model to build. Do you still consider that modeling, or do you mock it for being kid stuff? Just want your thoughts. Wow, that's a good question. That is a good question.
Depends what it's of.
Depends what yeah.
I mean, I've just done a World of Tanks Hog 2 in from, I can't remember what the company is. Roblox or something. I can't remember. which was bloody hard actually. So, I mean, it's not modeling in the way that we think of it. It's not scale modeling, plastic scale modeling, but it's still creating a reproduction. So I don't think, again, it's a creative hobby. It's certainly aligned if it's not exactly the same. So I don't think it's to be mocked. It's a bit different. I think there can be quite a palate cleanser.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think you could or should call it kid stuff.
Sorry.
No.
I built the UCS Millennium Falcon. That wasn't a toy. It wasn't a toy, and it was very expensive, and it took a long time. However, I wouldn't say it's modeling. It's just not. It's all the things that traditional scale modeling involves. Lego doesn't involve any of that.
Yeah,
it's a different medium, but it's certainly not kid stuff. If that kit you bought 2,800 pieces, that's not a toy. That is a serious bit of Lego. So no, it's not kid stuff, but it's not really modeling per se.
It's sort of almost like a bridge hobby, isn't it? 'Cause, I mean, that's why you got the quick build kits from Airfix, right?
Yeah, I've just bought one actually. Yeah, for my friend's little boy, the Raptor. Yeah, we're doing that tomorrow. So I'll let you know how I get on with that. I'll probably fuck it up.
Yeah, like the part stuff is.
Question: Airfix seems to be clearing their shelves ready for a new release. Any thoughts what it might be? End of the day, we still got Telford to come, and whether anything's going to be at Telford, we don't know. But what they did last year seems to have worked really well for them.
Mm-hmm.
To have a release on the day.
I think if they're going to do a big new release before the end of the year, Telford makes perfect sense.
It'll be a new release, a new tool or something. It would make sense for them to do it. Airfix used to announce a new tool every Telford, didn't they? Because the last one I remember was the Vulcan. That was the last one, which got put back because of COVID, didn't it?
Wasn't the Anderson announced at Telford?
No, it wasn't.
So I remember seeing they had all the sprues. I think that was 2022, I think. They had all the sprues in like cases, and it was at that point I said, if you put that in a Tamiya box, you wouldn't know the difference. And then I bought loads of Airfix.
I like to see another tank, though, to be fair. And if Airfix do release, because, the Cromwell, they've retooled that, haven't they? They've retooled the
Wheels.
The wheels. So hopefully, they must be doing something 135th, because they wouldn't have been investing in so much. We've had 3 releases, haven't we, from 135th? We've had the KT, we've had the Ferret Scout. What else? I'm trying to think now. What else? The Cromwell.
And you had you had the truck.
You had the truck. That's right. The general purpose truck, wasn't it? Yeah. Question: Do you think?
Try.
Do you think Pocker will be represented by Hornby at Telford this year? Very strange, because Telford is the plastic scale model society, where Pocker is a lot of metalwork, isn't it?
Right.
We had the discussion when Andy was on, because I had a kit, didn't I, that was metal. That Dragon kit was metal, wasn't it? And I said, could I have put this in the competition? And they said no. He doesn't think you could.
But if you look at the IPMS journal that's just been released, they published, the clubs that are confirmed and the competition classes and rules and everything else in that edition. And there are classes now for things like 3D printed resin. So they've realised that people want to put other stuff in. So it's probably a class there now for sort of metal kits. And who was the company that were there last year? They're very similar to Pocker. Big, expensive kits. They had like an Apache that had like rotors go. I don't know what scale it was, but it was massive. What are they called? Very expensive. Oh, but they were there, so maybe.
Yeah. Was it a hatchet? Was it hatchet?
Or what is it?
No, never do it, Steenie. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. I know Nigel was pretty much obsessed with that Apache for a while.
Mm.
But I don't think...
Agora?
Agora, yes. That's it, Agora.
Mm. Agora's a good kit. Any other questions? Put them in the chat. Anyone else got any questions? There'll be somebody saying that it might be a 1/24th kit release. I don't know. It's not. It's the timing wouldn't be right, would it? Every 3 years, we reckon, don't we, for a new 1/24th?
They're just the Spitfire, aren't they? So.
Yeah, the Spitfire Mark 8's gone out. Price wise,
this is a bold statement. If anyone does have an Airfix 24th Hellcat in their stash that they're never going to build, drop me a PM because I'm in the market. Next year.
Are you going to build it, are you?
Yeah, next year, yeah.
Speak to Nigel, he's got about 12, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's going to build them all.
148 Jaguar.
If they do 148 without being hit, I reckon.
They'll never do it because it's a political hot potato, particularly at the moment. But I would love to see Airfix do a 35th scale Super Sherman.
Oh,
I would love to see them do one of them, but they won't.
Yeah.
But Academy did one if they went to rebox it.
Yeah.
But they won't because it's of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see them bring out the first 1/35th scale Challenger 3.
Yeah.
But they won't.
Yeah, are the vendors, Grandmaster question, are the vendors restricted to just plastic or?
No.
No. They don't even ask us what we're going to sell.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
So you can turn up there.
You can do hot dogs this year.
Yeah.
Selling porn.
Yeah. Porn and hot dogs. That's what Alex is saying.
Yeah, I've got
You
to
want
say,
my hot dog?
I'm pretty sure if somebody rocked up there trying to sell Ann Summers, they would probably say,
So I was trying to think of what the name was.
Alex is all dressed up.
Adam and Eve or something.
1/72nd scale Halifax with all versions. Yeah, that would be good. That would be good. The 148C King V box would be pretty good.
That will come.
That was definitely going to come. A yellow version. Somebody said that as well. Definitely.
Ann Summers.
Yeah. Quick, Moss, get Outlaw Trainer Yellow in stock.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's on the boat stuck in Singapore. In Singapore. I had to get the lifeboat colours flown over.
No,
so, yeah. 148 Harvard. God, there's some good ones here. Starship with booster and launch tower. Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. Here you go. Yellow Sea King. Yeah. Could be released by Telford. Who knows? You know, we all kept quiet. You know, when Apple do a release, everybody knows that now. It used to be so, when Steve Jobs was around, it was like new, no one knew. And then all of a sudden now, boom, we know everything. But Airfix is really top heavy when it comes to keeping things quiet. Really quiet. Yeah. SpaceX Heavy Falcon would be nice as well. I would love that, definitely.
Especially if they've got like a deconstructed version and option in the kit.
See, that's something I was going to say was space. I've got to think about this because like the International Space Station near the end of life. If there was a time to do it, would be to do it now because they're not going to do anything else to it. If you wanted to tool
Correct.
the International Space Station, everything's there now. You've got the Japanese side, the Russian side, the Indian India. What did they? Japanese. There's a UK module as well, isn't there?
European Union.
Yeah, European Space Agency module. So if there's a time to do it, will be to do it now because it'll be the accurate one because there'll be nothing to add to it, would there?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting if somebody did.
Yeah,
that.
well, no, you can't do it with the Starship stuck to it because they fired that down to Earth. So,
Yeah, that's true. I tell you what, I heard a story. If I'm allowed to share this, right? That the original 2 that went on the Dragon demo, Doug Hurley and the other one, right? So Doug Hurley was sent to Boeing to work on the Starliner, right? And the other one, what's he called again? Oh, I just had his name in my mind then. But the other one ended up working at the SpaceX one. Doug Hurley said, "You would not see me getting on that Starliner." He said, because the way Boeing behaved was arrogant, didn't want to listen, whereas the SpaceX lot basically listened to everything they were being told by his thing. And they sent it up, and they still can't work out why the thrusters failed.
Yeah.
They had to reboot, didn't they?
SpaceX rescue.
Come down safe, but it just shows you that Boeing they got the contract because they did everything in 1960s, didn't they? In the 70s. But I tell you, when I go fly into a holiday, if they say Boeing, I twitch. If they say Airbus, I feel safer on an Airbus than I do on a Boeing now.
No, I was actually told something by someone who works in the airliner industry, and he's not keen on Boeings. No,
I'm not a fan of Boeing at all. That thing with the with that 787, whatever it was, just to save money. There's a documentary on it, and basically, say that's the engine, and there's the wing. It fits on an Airbus because they designed it so that they had the clearance. But Boeing said, "Oh, we won't bother with that. We'll just stick this bigger engine on, and we move it forwards and up, so the engine now sits like that on the front of the wing." And with that, they have to then put in a thing where they have one sensor to see whether they're going to stall or not. Nah. Not a chance.
Well, not being funny, I remember the S787 when it caught fire. It's the Ethiopian Air one.
Were you?
That was parked up in the what's the sheds?
Yeah,
in the cargo sheds at Heathrow. The big tarpaulin over it.
Well, look at the 777X. That has spent longer working out its issues than the original 777 took from inception to deployment.
It's just crazy.
It's been 14 years since the X program was started, and the original 777 was in service within 7.
Really?
So, yeah, because they grounded them all recently because they found cracks in the thrust bearings holding the engines onto the wing. Because the engines are massively more powerful, super impressive engines. And they grounded them, looked at some others, and they found cracks in some of the others as well. So they've got to go basically redesign the thrust bearings, which is a massive, fundamental part of the aircraft. So, yeah, it's going to be a while yet. And Emirates, I think, bought 30 pre-order something, so they have to get it right because they're bankrupt.
It's exciting though. The only thing that got me was I spent 4 hours.
This way, they're rubbing their hands.
That's tell you what, I spent 4 hours watching that live thing where they had they were going to do the first spacewalk, and all he did was pop his head out and went back in again. I thought, I waited 4 hours for that.
No,
I wanted to see him swimming. I wanted to see him like that.
You know, that was
How long have these astronauts been stranded for now?
6 months.
yeah.
It's kind of like so long everyone's forgotten now, haven't they? It's like, oh yeah, they're still there. It's bad. That's bad.
Yeah, that's it. We never. So I'm just looking through. The 747 is grounded. That's finished now. They don't build them anymore, do they? That's finished.
They stopped production.
I would like to see more commercial airlines in the range. That'd be good.
I mean, the 777X would be a good aircraft to do.
Yeah,
It's got folding wingtips. I don't know if you've seen like the stuff on it. It's a really cool aircraft if it works. Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to is going to go for that AN 225 in 148 scale.
It would be like building the Dora in 135th, right?
It's like you could build it, but then you wouldn't be able to get it out of the room it was built in.
Yeah.
Apparently, there is an AN 225 in 124 if you're into radial control plane. You can buy it in that sort of scale, but it's
You need
landing.
a warehouse to store it in.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's like when you see these big planes, you go to model shows and you see them. They come in like with this massive box, don't they? And they take it out, and some of the ingenious ways that these scale modelers are thinking, I've got a really big bomber here. How am I going to attach these wings? And they've got the magnets and everything.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
So I've got the Dora in both 72nd and 35th. Likelihood is of building the 72nd one next year for one of our group builds. The 35th one is a retirement project. But I've already figured out how I'm going to base it so that it can be dismantled safely, stored and transported. Because once I've built it, I'm not going to keep it. I'll donate it to like a museum or whatever because it's massive. But yeah, it's a big lump.
Like
The 72nd one's 4 foot long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a big old beast, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of money you're going to spend on paint as well.
Yeah.
Do you think of that? Well, if you need paint, mate, you know where I am. I can do you a deal.
yeah, much like that. Yeah.
Use RF, the RAAF dark grey, and you're laughing.
35 bottles of German grey.
Yeah. There's a guy who built a 1/16th scale Antonov AN225 radio controlled. It weighs 93 kilos.
Wow.
Imagine the fuel.
Almost 6 meters.
Because imagine the fuel to get that thing up in the air. And all you need is one gust of wind or some idiot with a Concorde that's like I love watching them videos. They're like they're coming into land and they bounce, crashes and explodes. And you got the guy there with the radio control in his head with the area going, what the hell happened there? You know what I mean?
Some knob with a drone that he's got off Temu for £8. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the thing that got me with this Temu one I got. I used it once and then Apple got rid of the app saying there was a security flaw. I can't even buy it. Can't even download it. Still in this box here now. You have to download an app. There it is there. You have to download an app.
Right.
And then Apple took the app down. They won't let me. When we go into it, it says this app's no longer available.
Oh, really?
But yeah, it was a £5 on Temu when I first signed up. You know, there it is. There it is. There. It's a shame really because it flew all right actually for a drone. You know, all photos. It's definitely plastic. You know, it's not like a DJI or anything like that.
Yeah.
I can never afford a DJI. But yeah, you get your little thing here to put your thing on, and yeah, Can't play with it now because the app's been taken down. So probably sent me bank details or something. So yeah, if I get it working again, I will. I'll probably just who makes a 1/35 Dora?
Saw art.
Saw Art.
It's crazy.
SOAR. I think Saw Art. And the 72nd one I've got is Hobbybox.
Sent an AN225 in the box to Andy's HQ. You're not going to see the guy in the video.
Nigel did a review of the AN225. I can't remember who it was by. I think it was a fiberglass kit. And you couldn't see Nigel.
I would like. Apparently, they're going to repair that AN225, aren't they?
Yeah.
The one that got like 2.5 years ago, it got blown up under the hangar or something. They're going to try to restore it or something.
Yeah, the actual plane got damaged not because of any bombing or nothing. It was the actual roof collapse on top of it. Is that right?
Apparently so. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
I think you've got the roof collapse with the one of the original flying Lancasters.
I think it was like the kinetic energy generated by an airstrike that collapsed the roof and damaged him.
Yeah, John, you're frozen.
Yeah, he's having trouble tonight. Who's old John?
Oh man, again.
Yeah, oh man. Can't hear you.
It does look very deep in thought.
Oh man.
Apparently, the back is broken and the wing spars are completely busted. That's all right.
That's definitely one of those times where a mechanic's going to stand in front of it and take a short intake of breath and shake his head. Good it cost you, mate. It's one of those, isn't it? It's not going to be cheap.
They do. They have an uncompleted airframe, so they could just do that, couldn't they? Just whack it across. Yeah, I know the Baran's buggered, didn't it? That got the roof collapsed on that.
That was abandoned for a long time, though.
They reckon they could have if they wanted to, they could have gone on and gone to space in that Baran. But like everything, the space shuttle was supposed to be one of those easy turnaround and send them up again. It never was. They made it overcomplicated. That's the trouble with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you look at history, so even World War II, so the Tiger, for example, what a phenomenal piece of engineering for its time.
Yeah.
But maintenance and the cost of maintenance was so high, whereas you could pump out Shermans from a factory that was a way inferior machine. However, you could maintain them really easily. They were cheap to produce, cheap to run. So sheer numbers alone overwhelmed the German army units.
It's the same with the Panther, isn't it? I mean, the T-34 came up, and they just was it Guderian wanted to just basically make German T-34s, and Hitler was like, no, we'll make a better tank, and so they made the Panther, which, on paper and ostensibly, I mean, it's a fantastic vehicle, it's a great tank, but I mean, the Battle of Kursk, half of the Panthers didn't work.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how good your tank is if it won't switch on.
But you look like an
Russians were pumping out thousands of T-34s. So
you look like modern armor, Abrams, Challenger, phenomenal pieces of engineering, phenomenal fighting vehicles without a shadow of a doubt. But for every hour they operate, they require between 6 and 8 hours of maintenance. So actually, where you could get a bit of CA glue and a bit of duct tape, and your T-55 is going to run all day. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Some plastic card and some sprue glue will fix anything. I don't think so. Not that Baran anyway. Or the
duct tape will fix it.
Yeah, I think I've seen it fly once, and that was it. That 225. But that was in Scotland, I think it was. But yeah, Panthers broke down yeah, Panthers are broke down recently. Okay. I would like to, so I'd like to see more tanks in the range. 135th.
A certain someone will get very excited if they do a Covenanter.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think going sort of more obscure, like a Conqueror and stuff, more obscure British tanks
Conqueror.
would go down really well with Airfix because they do a lot of British subject for a British company. There'll be a lot of love for that sort of stuff. And
I think they do really, really well if they do the 35th scale Centurion.
Yeah, Centurion would be great.
Because there's not many out there, and the ones that are AFB Club is really the only game in town at that scale. And they are good kits, but they're not easy kits. If that makes they're quite a complex build. Whereas Airfix could work their magic on a Centurion, and they corner the market for sure. In answer to Ben's question, I wouldn't like to be in any tank. I think they're amazing. They've got me out the ship many, many times. However, fair play to the crews because I wouldn't sit in one. No way.
I think the thing is that as the war in Ukraine has shown, it's always easier to destroy something than it is to defend something. And the one thing that the Western tanks have over the Russian tanks is crew survivability.
Because it's taken into consideration at design, that's why. The Russians
ultimately, no tank is ultimately completely safe. If you've got a top strike 2-stage missile like the Cornet that the Russians have, they'll take out anything. You can put enough explosive in something to take out a tank, no matter how big the armor or how thick the armor is. Do the crew get out or not? And the Challenger that have been disabled, the crew survived, because they were immobilized and then they were plinked when they were stood still. So can't say that about the Russian tanks.
So US armor, British armor, the survivability of the crew is a paramount thing that they consider during the design phase. Yeah. It's a criteria, whereas other nations, such as the Russians, they don't really care. That's the least, that's right down the list for them. What they care about is how fast it is and how big it goes bang. That's what they care about. Whereas, they say, whether it's true or not, because the British won't even let the US have the plans to the armor they use on the Challenger, that it is, from a crew survivability point of view, the most advanced main battle tank in the world, because the crew survivability is so good. And we're the only ones that have got that armor because we won't let anyone else have it.
We gave away far too many of our secrets in the 50s and 60s. We should
Look where that got us.
Yeah, exactly. Chobham and Dorchester armor is ours.
Swing wings.
The closest I'm going to say is, I think, going back to all these, what people want and tanks and that, the one kit that Airfix need to do is a Challenger. They've not got a Challenger in their range. They need to do one.
I don't think they will.
I don't think they would. I'd love it if they did it. I think, Challenger 3, nobody else has it. Not too different from a Challenger 2. You could go down the line and release a Challenger 2 down the line, because Challenger 3 is basically a series of improvements to the 2. So, but will they? I doubt it.
Be nice.
I'd love for them to surprise us, though.
Yeah.
They should just do all of them. Conqueror, Chieftain, Challenger, Covenanter. Anything that begins with a C and is British, basically.
Yeah.
Matilda
doesn't begin with a C.
And on that bombshell, we shall say goodnight. It's 10 o'clock. Thanks all for watching. Hope you have a really good rest of your week. I'm back on Thursday for my members live stream. I don't know if anyone else has got live streams coming up. You have Wednesdays, don't you, Alex? Your live stream Wednesday.
I'll be missed last week, so we'll be up on Wednesday. Yeah,
that's fair enough. As I said, I'm trying out new things, new videos and stuff. I'm trying to find out the best times to release videos at the moment. So I did one at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it done bloody well for me. Like, you know, I don't know if the stats are right on this YouTube. They told me that putting a video out at 6 o'clock is a good time. So, but
that would be 8 o'clock for me and 5 o'clock on the west coast of the United States. So
yeah,
not too bad.
but most of my viewers are English anyway. America's like 20%, I think. Got quite a few in Australia that watch me, but that's I think because of the outlaw paints. But yeah, I see somebody got one. I'll tell you what, I'm loving this 24-hour track. Every single parcel I send out, 24-hour track gets there next day now. Royal Mail's been brilliant for me, and with the emails and everything, it's all good. So, anyways, right, that's it. Thanks all for joining us. I said I've got a video going at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, so which will be a bit of fun. And I will see you next Monday. Have a good one all, and if I can find the goodbye thing, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.